We all do it. Each and every one of us that's honest with ourselves does it. A big 4 pay-per-view comes along, and we look at the card, we pick it apart, we critique the fuck out of it, we say, yeah, it might be good, but TakeOver's obviously going to be better. And 9 times out of 10 it's true, because there's nothing else. The way NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool, say that 3 times fast, is stacking up, it might blow TakeOver and the Rumble out of the water. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with part 2 of your NXT UK review for this past Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. Hope you guys are enjoying the new year so far. Gonna forego the house cleaning, as I've been doing all week, to just simply let you guys know, for those of you that didn't catch my first 2 videos, my NXT review, my NXT UK Part 1 review, having a couple of social media issues due to certain people out there. Hi Richard, hi Shannon. Yeah, so I don't have Twitter and I have very, very limited use of my Facebook. So getting these videos out is not typically as easy as it would typically be. Now, apparently that's only going to last for 7 days. Who knows, I might go back to barraging all of you guys as I usually do when things get up and running. But I will say, if the mood strikes you, if you feel like it, if you feel like sharing this, retweeting this, posting it, wherever you happen to be on social media, it really would help me out. I really would appreciate it. Totally up to you guys, but yeah, it is totally up to you guys. I'm not going to say, hey guys, please come do this. I'll give you a couple of bonus points on the pay-per-view pick 'em or anything like that. That's not a thing. I hate saying it because I'd much rather be up here myself doing the work to get myself out there in various places, but people seem to want to be dicks and say, Happy New Year, Spaz. We're going to fuck you real good. So yeah, anybody, I know a couple of you already have. I really appreciate that. If you feel like it, please do not feel obligated, obviously. The fact that you're sitting down watching the video right now, listening to me ramble on about wrestling is quite enough, is it not? House cleaning, go up in the annotation up above. Check out the Q&A. Q&A is coming up, Royal Rumble week as well. Check out the playlists for NXT, NXT UK, the 205 reviews back when I was doing that, the topical videos, etc. Whatever catches your eye, please come check it out. There's some old stuff on there, there's some new stuff on there. People are still watching my Scene Apocalypse video from like 4 years ago, which is crazy. Anyway, let's talk about the second half of NXT UK. Shorter show, or at least it felt like a shorter show. Lots of focus on all the belts, which is good, isn't it? We started off once again with the RIP memorial image for Mean Gene, which is great. Again, I will encourage you guys, go check out Good Mike Works memorial for Mean Gene that he did on his channel, much more in detail than I could possibly give you. Here we replay Rhea Ripley 2 weeks ago, beating down, I can speak, I swear, it's Friday, cut me some slack, DEONNA Purrazzo after their match, getting saved by Toni Storm, and then the respectful challenge between the two, because our first match of the night is Toni Storm versus DEONNA Purrazzo. And if you've been living under a rock, if I have to say this, Toni Storm is over as fuck, isn't she? They're talking on commentary about the women that seem to own their respective rosters on their respective shows. They didn't mention NXT, which I'm assuming the comparison would have been Shayna Baszler, either that or Kairi Sane, but they talk about obviously Ronda Rousey being the name on Raw, Becky Lynch being the name on SmackDown, even though she's not the champion anymore. Sorry about that, Asuka. But it is Toni Storm. I like Rhea Ripley too, don't get me wrong, and nobody should fuck with Rhea Ripley. But Toni Storm is the star of the, as much as personally I like Isla Dawn as well, and if it was a triple threat at TakeOver, you know, do myself in, wouldn't I? But yeah, we got this respectful match between Toni Storm and DEONNA Purrazzo. There's I didn't put it in my notes, but there's a very cool story that gets told throughout this match, where they started off with a handshake. Midway through the match, they go for another shake. The third time Toni Storm goes for a handshake, it gets kicked away by DEONNA Purrazzo. You know, showing the frustration. You know, frustration melts friendships in the course of the story of the pro wrestling match, and that was a really cool thing that they told throughout the match that didn't make it into the details of my notes, but the cheers and the applause and the adulation from the UK crowd. If I could teleport, I would go to all of the NXT UK tapings over in the UK, because that looks like such a fun crowd to be in. And I know WWE goes around the world. I know NXT, you know, tours to a limited degree as well. NXT UK is a specific area brand, but I do hope they tour at some point. I do hope that the UK brand comes over to North America and puts on a strictly NXT UK show, or has like like I've said before, sort of like a battle of the brands. NXT, you know, North America versus NXT UK would be really, really cool as well. But I'd love the chance to see some of these, like the guys from Gallus. I've been lucky, as I've said a million times, going to Destiny here in Mississauga. I've had a chance multiple times to see Pete Dunne, because he's their champion as well, along with guys like Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, etc. I'd love to see the guys from Gallus. That would be really, really cool. Obviously, it should go without saying, unless this is the first video of mine that you have ever seen, I would love to be front row in person to see Toni Storm take on Isla Dawn. That would be fucking amazing. But what we have here, Toni Storm versus DEONNA Purrazzo. As I say, handshake to start, collar and elbow tie, but they trade wrist locks. Front face lock by Storm that she eventually turns into a body scissors. Purrazzo tries to work the ankle, but a snapmare by Storm cuts that off. A figure four head scissor, or sorry, a figure four head lock by Purrazzo, and Toni Storm headstands out, and then Toni Storm eventually works her way into the figure four headlock, and Purrazzo does the same thing. For those of you that don't know, and I'm saying it for the first time this year, anything you can do, I can do better, is one of my favorite stories in a pro wrestling match. Collar and elbow tie up in a kitchen sink by Purrazzo. Chops, a drop kick by Storm, and an Indian deathlock headlock combination that basically bent Purrazzo in half, which was really, really good. Single leg reverse Alabama slam out of the corner by Purrazzo. Just face planted Toni Storm, and it's good. Toni Storm, as much as she's a star and as much confidence as she puts out there, she has the ability on a dime to sell the hell out of anything and make you believe that she's in absolute peril, and that's part of why I think she's such a star. Forearms by Storm and a Koji clutch by Purrazzo, followed by a lariat when Storm breaks out of it. Purrazzo knee drops the arm, working the arm. Backstabber by Storm, hip attack by Storm, and a headbutt and a hip toss by Purrazzo. Drop kick by Purrazzo. Rings of Saturn. Rings of Saturn was on for a long time, and Toni Storm, she's in it, and inches her way, and it's not like one of the typical, like, you know, the cocky wrestler eventually is like, oh, I can't move my arms, I'll just lay my foot over the rope. She struggles and swats at the rope a whole bunch. It sounds like a small thing, but it's not. Go check it out. The way she sold the nervousness of this moment, and the way commentary built it up too, because she's the #1 contender for the title. If DEONNA Purrazzo had beaten her tonight, especially by submission, what would that have done to the title picture? Fucking great. They trade some shots, a boot by Storm, a German suplex followed by the Storm Zero. Storm Zero, after the 3rd or 4th attempt in this match, selling all the work from DEONNA Purrazzo, which is great. Great storytelling. Purrazzo is the virtuosa of the armbar, so obviously all the attacks were on the arm. Toni Storm sold the arm. It took her 3 or 4 attempts to hit the Storm Zero, but she did hit the Storm Zero, and she did get the win. Purrazzo sort of fades into the background. Still respectful, but at the same time pissed off that she lost. Obviously, Ripley comes out. And I didn't like this at first, but then I thought about it for a second. She comes around and she slowly sort of circles the ring. Now, she's the powerhouse in the match. And right now, Toni Storm is in the ring selling a limp noodle of an arm that has just been worked over by DEONNA Purrazzo. And Ripley, I would have loved to do the vicious heel post-match assault, setting up for the pay-per-view. But it sends a different message that she didn't. It's that, you know, I'm inches away from you. You're helpless right now. I could weaken you for the pay-per-view, but I'm so confident in what I can do that I'm not going to. I'm just going to stand on the apron, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the thumbnail for this video. I'm just going to stand on the apron, and I'm just going to drape my belt in front of you, because that's how confident I am that I'm not going to lose it. Flash forward to my prediction. I do believe that Toni Storm is walking out of Blackpool with that title. But that's that. They had a little stare down. Less is more in this particular scenario. Less is more. DEONNA Purrazzo looked fantastic in this match too, but Toni Storm, as I say, is a fucking star. We get the announcement that next week Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews are going to take on Zach Gibson and Can't even think of the guy's first name because all I wrote down is Drake. So it's going to be Gibson and Drake versus Webster and Matthews, or sorry, Webster and Andrews. The winner is going to take on Mustache Mountain at Takeover for the inaugural NXT UK Tag Team Championships. The titles are just getting longer and longer for those belts. It's not like our friends over in the UK, what is it? The never open weight 6-man gimmick, whatever, Japan title. And I will say, I am probably going to catch 1 or 2 matches from New Japan. I know they had Wrestle Kingdom this morning. Yay. I've seen some shots of Jericho, and all I can say is Jericho's great. Jericho can pull off any gimmick, but wrestling in Japan has made Jericho into a cartoon character. Oh, yes. Speaking of cartoon characters, Wild Boar took on some jobber named Turbo Josh Morrell and destroyed him. To the point where I'm not even really going to talk about this match. I will talk about right in the middle of this match where he had him in a pretty vicious looking nerve hold. And yes, the animal metaphors are flowing at this point, but he just does look like a vicious animal, just like latched on to the guy's shoulder. So that works with the gimmick. Also, got a chance over December while I was on my sabbatical or whatever. They've teamed him up with Primate, which is lovely. Primate, I only know through conversation because I've heard him spoken about on What Culture and Wrestle Culture, which you guys know I listen to quite a bit. I drop references from them a lot of the time. I don't shy away from that. You should check them out. They're good. Also check out Simon Miller's podcast. Seen them once. So they've got Primate, which is basically a gorilla. You've got the gorilla and the Wild Boar. They're going to be a tag team. That's fantastic. I love the Wild Boar gimmick. I think the guy's fucking nuts. He reminds me of Taz. And for all of you who know how much I rip off the Taz show on this show, it's good. It's a lot of fun. This guy Turbo Josh Morrell had enhancement talent written all over him. It was like the other guy in the other match we talked about yesterday. The guy's name is Screwface and Turbo. Now, yes, I'm saying that while I'm praising a guy named Wild Boar and talking about a guy named Primate, but clearly these are guys they're pushing, so it's just different. Joseph Connors cuts a promo in the back talking about how he was lied to when he came to NXT UK, and he's going to take out all the shiny toys. And unfortunately, I want to see Connors go and do something well here, but it sounded like a cut and paste of the promos that Cassius Ohno has been doing in NXT proper. Talking about, killing off all the shiny new toys, and he just got his ass handed to him by Matt Riddle. So, sounding like Cassius Ohno is never a good thing, is it? Catastrophe Dad Bod should not be one of your motivating factors. Travis Banks in the back cutting a promo, calling out Jordan Devlin for what he said about him and his family and his homeland of Australia, or not Australia, New Zealand, sorry. So that's going to be a match at some point. I hope they put that on the TakeOver card, because I think that'd be really good. Jordan Devlin looks like the version of Finn Balor that might have children in his basement, but he's a heel, so that's fine, I guess. Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel are yelling at Sid Scala, talking about how they deserve to be in the tag title shot instead of Webster and Andrews, even though they lost to Webster and Andrews, so who knows. Sid Scala says, not only are you banned from being involved in the title situation at all, if you do get involved in the title situation, you will be fired from NXT UK. Now, what that leads me to believe, because these are two guys that came over from NXT proper, is that they're going to get fired from the UK brand and go back over to NXT proper. I don't want that to happen, though, because we're just trying to establish these belts. Dave Mastiff versus Eddie Dennis. It's a weird match, because they're trying to say it's these two big guys. But one big guy is big, and one big guy is just tall. And I like Dave Mastiff. And Eddie Dennis is weird. And I want to like him because he's a weird dude, but he's weird in a creepy way. But he's weird in the sense that Jordan Devlin is weird, and Jordan Devlin does it better in the way that Noam Dar is a little bit of a creeper, and he does it better. So I want to like him because he's doing something good, but he's doing something good that other people do better, and I'm not as familiar with him as I am with them. So he's coming up from behind on that one, and Dave Mastiff is just a lot of fun to watch. Series of shots in the ring, series of shots in the corner by Dennis and Mudhole Stomp, rolling Irish whips, and a Mudhole Stomp by Dennis, strikes and uppercuts by Mastiff in a running crossbody. I wouldn't want Dave Mastiff running at me. in any way, shape, or form, in any context, in any situation. The dude is fucking terrifying. The fact that he pulls on his own fucking face while he's running at you, cool. Drop kick by Mastiff, because that's not terrifying. Seated abdominal stretch, Mastiff gets trapped in the ropes and elbows in the head, constantly rolling Sinton on the floor by Mastiff, but then when Mastiff goes for the cannonball on the outside, he eats the steps. They trade punches, they trade brawls, and I figure they're going to get tagged or counted out by the referee, because the referee is at a count of 9. Both of them stumble back in the ring. They trade punches in the ring, collar and elbow tie-up, you know, where sort of one arm is in that collar and elbow tie-up and the other arm is just doing hammer blows, and the referee's trying to call them off. Referee gets tossed off by both guys. The match gets tossed out. Sid Scala leads a couple more referees out to separate them. Johnny Saint comes out and announces that at NXT UK Takeover Blackpool, which is a long name and an unnecessarily long name, Dennis and Mastiff are going to face off at the pay-per-view in a no DQ match, which is going to be fucking fantastic. You throw that on, along with possibly Banks versus Devlin and Dunn versus Coffey and Ripley versus Storm, and the tag title situation. This is a hell of a card. This is why I said what I said at the beginning of this show, is that NXT Takeover Phoenix, anyways, NXT Takeover Phoenix is looking good. It really is. You got Aleister Black versus Ciampa, which is a little bit of a repeat, and it's sort of a story that's dragged over from last year. You got Shayna Baszler taking on Bianca Belair, which, not gonna lie, I could do without. And whatever else they fill it up with, I'm sure it will be good. They've got a couple more weeks to fill that card out, but right now, this this card is in the running. This card is, like, Royal Rumble has the advantage because it's got the Royal Rumble match in it, or sorry, should I say the Royal Rumble matches. But other than the Royal Rumble matches, which is sort of an unfair advantage, what does it have going for it? You've got, like, the annoying vegan Daniel Bryan taking on AJ Styles again, which is something I want to like, but whatever. I'm way off the point here, and there's nothing in front of me on my notes that has anything to do with anything that I'm saying right now. We have a video package of the brawl that ensued between British Strong Style and Gallus last week. The announcement that next week Gallus is going to take on British Strong Style in a 3-on-3 6-man tag match, which is going to be great. Pretty sure that'll end in a no contest because we're going into a pay-per-view. Then we have the contract signing between Dunn and Coffey. They stare each other down once they're announced to the ring. They don't want to sit at first. Johnny Saint and Sid Scala try to get them to sit down, and they don't. And then Coffey starts talking, and he sits down, and he starts contrasting this to a business meeting. He starts reminding Pete Dunne how historic this is. He tells Sid Scala and Johnny Saint to leave the ring, and they do, which bugged me a little bit, because Johnny Saint, the GM role in WWE is always one that kind of gets beaten around, but Johnny Saint has sort of set the standard in NXT UK for that. And I mean, William Regal does the same thing too, so I shouldn't say it's exactly unique, but sort of like that GM role that actually the role is serious and they're not going to take any bullshit. So the fact that they just left wasn't the greatest thing in the... If it was just run by Sid Scala, who's just there to be a twerp, then I would have liked it. But Johnny Saint has been made to be this, you know, ultra respectable, ultra, you know, commanding of the situation type guy, and he was just dismissed by Joe Coffey, which wasn't the greatest thing in the world. But he tells Saint and Scala to leave, which is fine. He tells Pete Dunne, "You've been champion for too long," and the smirk on Pete Dunne's face tells the whole story. But he says, "You've been champion for so long only because I wasn't here. It's time for the Iron King to claim the throne." And then he makes a bunch of kings and thrones and crowns metaphors that all sort of jumble into each other, and whatever. Leans in to sign the contract. As he's signing the contract, Pete snaps his fingers, tells him he talks too much, and goes to walk away. Then, of course, Mark and Wolfgang come down. They cause the distraction. You know, it's not a 3-on-1 beatdown, so it's not as cliche as it could have been, but they cause the distraction on the ramp. They look like they are cosplaying as members of the Mean Street Posse. I'm really not going to lie on them, with the sweaters and the dress pants, and it was a little bit weird for 3 guys that are supposed to be like brawlers that are going to come and thump the fuck out of you. So that was a bit weird, but it was enough of a distraction for Coffey to get the signature powerbomb through the table that has to happen at every contract signing ever in the WWE, even in the UK, apparently. But this, as I said, I'm going to roll my eyes a little bit at the cliche contract signing the WWE has to do all the time. That's fine, but Coffey versus Dunn. Mustache Mountain versus one of the teams that's fighting next week. Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. Dave Mastiff versus Eddie Dennis. Possibly Travis Banks versus Jordan Devlin in some sort of maybe stipulation match. Who knows? TakeOver could be tomorrow, and I'd be fine with that. They don't need to do anything else to build this other than give us that other tag team for that match. This is going to be fantastic. The doubling up of episodes is wearing a little thin. I'm really hoping that the doubling up of the episodes was to get us to the TakeOver event and then leave it and then go back to weekly episodes. That'll make obviously doing the reviews a lot easier. And it'll give us time to digest what we're seeing in front of our faces, and it won't make us laugh so much when they say, hey, this is going to happen next week, when really you know it's going to happen in about 45 minutes or so. Anyways, that's it. That was second half of January 2nd NXT UK. Let me know what you think down in the box below. But until then, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I am tagging out. Have a good weekend, guys. Break like me.